Hey there folks, my name is EmptyBerry, and welcome to today's episode of Lore to Go, the series where we talk about the story behind games in 5 minutes or less. This episode will be the first in a 2-part series about the Hive, one of the main enemy races in Destiny. In this part, we will be focusing on the origins of the Hive and how they became associated with the darkness. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel in order to see more videos about characters and events in the Destiny universe. With all that said, let's jump into it. To talk about the Hive, we need to travel back a few millennia before the start of the Destiny storyline. In a distant galaxy, a race named the Krill lived on a gas giant known as Fundament. Among them, there were 3 Krill sisters who were daughters to the Osmium King, who ruled the continent known as the Osmium Court. The daughters' names were Zero, Sathona, and Aurash. As the Osmium King aged, he began to show signs of madness and started to rave of a coming apocalyptic event. During this time, he found a strange white worm that appeared to be dead washed up on a shore. He began to keep it with him at all times and believed that it spoke to him. As his ravings worsened, Tawix, the advisor to the Osmium King's daughters, feared for the future of their people. She believed that the daughters were not strong enough to take over after their father passed, and therefore betrayed her people to a rival group of Krill known as the Helium Drinkers. They invaded the Osmium Court, killed the king, and put Tawix in charge as their regent. During the attack, Sathona stole the dead worm her father kept near him, before the 3 sisters boarded a ship and escaped upon the seas of Fundament, swearing that they would get their revenge. Adrift without a home, the 3 sisters traveled the sea. They eventually came upon an ancient, high-tech ship, which they named the Needle. While originally unsure what to do with the ship, they decided to repair and take command of it. This was partly thanks to Sathona, who began to believe that their father's worm was communicating with them. It urged them to repair the ship and then dive to the core of Fundament, where it promised the power to get revenge for their people. They spent the next 2 years repairing the ship before attempting to utilize it to explore the core of Fundament. During their descent, they came upon a massive creature known as the Leviathan. It was a disciple of the Traveler and urged the sisters to turn back, warning them that to continue further would cause them to face a choice between the sky and the deep, also known as the light and the darkness. The sisters explained their situation, pointing out that they could not accept the teachings of the sky, as it was currently causing the suffering of their people. Urged on by Sathona's worm, the sisters rejected the Leviathan's pleas and continued further downward. Deep within the ocean, the sisters encountered 5 ancient beings which referred to themselves as the Worm Gods. The worms possessed immense power, which they drew from the darkness itself. Upon hearing of the sisters' hardships, they offered them a deal. The worms would give the sisters power and immortality in exchange for becoming hosts for the worms' larvae. However, if the sisters ever ceased to obey their true nature, Zero's strength, Sathona's cunning, and Aurash's inquisitiveness, the worms would consume them. The sisters accepted the pact and gained the power of the worms, causing them to morph into the Hive known as Xivu-Arath, Savathun, and Aurix. Emboldened by this new power, the sisters returned to the surface, bringing more worms to their people. This began the creation of the Hive, as the Krill who accepted the worms transformed and gained their power. Using these newfound abilities, the Hive liberated the Osmium Court and began looking to the stars to escape Fundament. Years later, once they had gained the technology to travel through space, the Ammonites, which were aligned with the Traveler and lived among Fundament's moons, attempted to stop them. However, the Hive had grown in numbers and power and were able to overwhelm the Ammonites, kill the Leviathan on Fundament, and force the Traveler to flee the system. This also allowed the Worm Gods to escape from the planet and enter into the plane of existence known as the Ascendant Realm. Not satisfied with their recent victory, the Hive began to set out into the rest of the universe, eager to prove themselves and feed their worms. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Lore to Go. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. Be on the lookout for the next video in this series, which will go into details about the philosophy of the Hive known as the Sword Logic, as well as the moment that caused the sisters to abandon one another and go their separate ways. That's all for today though. Thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you next time.